wearables are not a new concept. Been around for 60 years at a minimum, from Dick Tracy watches to shoe phones on television comedies, all the way through the 70s and 80s, the backpack computers. So it's not a new concept. What's new is the coalescing of a wide number of factors. Now, cloud computing,
Right.
free storage, ubiquitous communications, flexible circuit board, all these things have sort of come together in the quote-unquote perfect storm that have enabled people to really think about very practical and very functional devices. And I think that's what's changed. Because the classic question in venture capital is, why now? What's changed? That's why. So that was the sort of the theme.
Sure. Okay.
And then also the fact that, in early markets, you have some sort of leading technologies. So the fact that you can build a GPS chip in a tennis shoe is a nice thing. Can you get the data out? Can you analyze it?
Right.
Can you access it? All of those capabilities have to be available in the ecosystem, where that first innovation goes nowhere. So again, I think that's why things are starting to happen, but we're still not quite, there's still a number of other things. Size may still be an issue, power still may be an issue, and exact use case is still an issue. So that was the themes of the talk.
Are we on, or are we going to?
You're on.
Oh, I was on. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you
can
did
edit,
it. Because
you can
sometimes the pre-interview questions come on much better than the interview ones. I'm glad he's doing
I'll edit it up, yeah.
But from the investment perspective, like you mentioned earlier, the entrepreneurs themselves have changed, right? There's a lot more opportunity now that people feel, but I feel that there was a lot more opportunity 20 years ago also. But when you look from the same prism, as you said, from the technology evolution, how has entrepreneurship changed in your opinion?
Well, okay, I would say this, is that there is the ecosystem around entrepreneurship, the lawyers, the accountants, the advisors, the tools, the easy access to infrastructure. You don't need to build up servers. You can use Amazon. You don't need to design your own OS. There's so many to choose from. The development tools can be run on PCs. You don't need workstations. So just the cost, the entry point for entrepreneurs to create and invent has dropped so dramatically. I don't think there's any bad news about that. I think it's very seductive. It's not even a concern. The only thing that people need to be aware of is that it's everybody. So if you just think you had a great idea because you had this tool, and this tool, and you can do something and stick them together, there's probably 1,000 other people on the planet that figured it out at about the same time.
Right.
So you have to really, the fact that you can be a visionary, we still in the investment world still look for differentiation, right? And still look for enabling technologies and that leading edge. And so it's great that people have the tools to be creative, which has empowered more people to be creative. But smart money, or really sophisticated investors are, if the floor is moved up, which means it's more people are enabled to be entrepreneurs, then we're looking up here. It's not like we're constantly trying to find the differentiated product.
So there is always this challenge for entrepreneurs beyond the fundamentals of what a good entrepreneur is. When they go to VCs, they have to have the right match first, because not all funds and not all firms
Absolutely.
are going to help you in your particular
Absolutely.
vertical. So that is one of the homework that these guys have to do. Second important part is, when you look beyond the team, you'll ask for traction, market traction. And they say, well, without the money, I cannot get the market traction. I can build a prototype with bootstrapping. This is the constant challenge for entrepreneurs.
Well, you've constructed the question. I think I would construct it differently. At a high level, you could break the world into two parts, or the entrepreneurial sort of product service space into two parts. Those products or services that are have technology risk, and those products or services that have marketing risk. An example of technology risk would be, I'm going to work at Stanford University, deep down in a lab, 3 floors away from everything, in some remote building, and one day I'm going to pop out and I'm going to have a cure for lung cancer. There's no market risk there. Basically, if that truly cures lung cancer, you'll sell as much as you possibly can. No market risk.
Right.
And then there's the social network. I'm going to build, I'm not going to say there's no technology there, but I'm going to build a really cool user interface because I'm artistically inclined, and I'm going to create some partnerships with a few big carriers, and I'm going to build some software so I can send messages and pictures to my friends. Not as much, in the extreme, not as much technology there. It's more of an integration story. And it's all about marketing. It's all about, is there a brand created there? Do people like it? Do they like it better than the 50 other social networking or communications platforms? So it's not 100% true that if you walk in that a VC says, do you have traction? It depends on where in that continuum you live. And obviously there are some markets where, let's call it like building a new internet router or switch. It's not easy to build those kinds of things. They're, run at 10 or 100 gigabits per second, need to have all kinds of security features, very difficult to build, and there's 10 other companies building them, and you don't know if you've got the market chops and the sales guys and the marketing guys that's going to make yours look the best. So those can be some of the most difficult because you've got two kinds of risks. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I wanted to clear up the fact that I think when you walk into a room with informed investors, sophisticated investors, we're kind of assessing where the risks are. And it may be that you don't need that much traction because we're pretty convinced if you build it, it's going to sell.
When it comes to wearables, as you mentioned earlier, it's not a new phenomenon. It's been there in the 60s and 70s. It's evolved just because of all the other technology in evolution. But when there is a new technology on the horizon, there is a kind of a gold rush into it.
Yes.
And then some of them stay, most of them actually wither off and fade off. Last 2 years we have heard a lot about IoT.
Yes.
And now wearable is getting traction. As a VC, when you look at these fads coming along, how do you come up above the churn?
Okay, so that's a terrific question. I think that there's a whole continuum of venture investors. There's the seed investors and the early stage venture investors that'll invest in one person and one idea, and they've got some experience in that space, or they have some unique insight, and they'll take a chance, and they'll balance investment with risk. Some people have more money, some people are playing on the house's money. They had a good year last year. I think it's a bad example, but I think it's an appropriate one. All of us have played poker, either free poker online or they go to Las Vegas or whatever. And if you've ever played the game, there's probably other games, but poker is so, it works, the analogy works so well here. When you've won a few hands and your stack is pretty big, that next hand, when you don't have the best cards, you go, well, maybe I'll get one. I'll just put a little bit more money on it. I'll bet that one. If you're sitting there and you've got your last $50, your last $5, you're kind of waiting for the right card. You're just sitting in the background going, I better wait for the best cards. Well, I think humans are the same in many applications, in many situations in life. And so you walk into a venture firm, a firm that's done well and has really good returns in a given fund, they may just be willing to make that bet and give somebody $1 million, $2 million, $5 million on an idea that seems so remote and so crazy. And some percentage of the time they're going to get it right. It's a probabilistic thing. Nobody can predict the future. Versus there's other investors that live their life on 2x returns, because in a marketplace where 1.1% interest on your savings account, a 2x return in a couple of years, even 2x return over 10 years is really good. And so they're probably not going to come in until the product's in the market, it's already $50 million a year run rate, and they just need some more growth capital. Okay, I'll bet on that one. What's the chances that things are going to fall apart? Things do fall apart. Solyndra fell apart. People put a lot of, but it happens. It doesn't happen as much. But you play returns game. So I think it's an efficient market. It's self-correcting. There's people who'll take the chance down here, whether they're big risk takers or whether they're playing on the house's money. And there's people up here that'll take little bits and pieces, literally like the electronics, the guys that play the second by second trading game, where they make fractions of a penny on every trade, but they do 1 billion trades.
Right.
Very little risk there.
Right.
They just make a little at a time. So.
Finally, when it comes to defining a particular segment and finding stability in it, there are a lot of macro factors that have to come together. You have seen a few before.
Sure.
How do you think this particular segment that we're talking about, wearables, will come to be defined in the future?
Well, I think when I think of both wearables and IoT, and obviously they're very related. One says wearables would be a subset of IoT. I really like to think about it as verticals. I really am uncomfortable making it works. I'm going to a conference on wearables, sure, and everybody kind of knows what's in there, but it's a little soft around the edges. I think you have to look at real problems. And so if it's a communications problem and you want a watch that notifies you that you got alerts and you think that's valuable, okay, that's interesting. So we'll call that a human communications vertical. If it's a field service situation where you can have 10 deliveries in a day instead of 8, is connected all day long and has all of their paperwork and everything is all, they got scanners on their arms and they can do wearables, great. If it's doctors that in remote locations can have a wearable with an HD camera and can be doing surgery while someone from Stanford University is talking in their ear saying, don't cut that, cut this over here, and they're dealing with Ebola, and you don't have to send that doctor, right? But they've got this wearable technology that enhances their abilities. I like to think about these technologies in those contexts because it gets back to where's the pain, who's bleeding from the neck, what are the problems. The consumer side is a little trickier. Consumers are very fickle. One day they like things, one day they don't. There's definitely money that can be made, but you can't sell the concept of, to make big money in the consumer space, you either have to have a lot of money to build a brand, or it has to be something so unique and out of the box that the viral nature of the world now and the connectivity will just get you there. So anyway.
All right, Steve. Thank you so much again. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.